Hi, Darlene.
Hey, Lydia, how are you?
Happy New Year.
Same to you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Oh, Merry Christmas. This has been an amazing. First of all, it's raining and pouring here, and we're ending the drought finally. It's
Wow.
kind of a it's a gift. Um, we've had a 7-year drought, and the wildfires are really prolific. And we finally have. It feels like the Sierra Nevadas, the snow caps are filled right now. It's we've had nonstop rain
I
all night.
heard that. I heard that for more than a few days, right?
Yeah, and flooding too, but it was kind of scary last night to hear it pounding. It's still raining right now. We're not used to that in California. We when it rains, people drive like 0 miles an hour.
Well, we've had like 3 or 4 days of rain too, but we're so used to the gray and doom and gloom and rain. It's like, that's our winter,
Yeah.
so we're ready for that.
So you're so beautiful. I
Thank
just
you.
I would love to just wish everyone a happy new year. And this show is called How to Heal, because it's the one thing everyone needs to know: how to heal their bodies, mind, spirit, family relationships, political divisions. There's one ultimate source of good in the world. And we're going to discuss different methods of healing. But I want to talk to you about, on a personal level, what you've been going through, just what's going on in your life. I know something
Well,
happened.
I think that everyone, and we're talking about good and we're talking about, how to heal. And I think that there's one ultimate physician, right? There's one ultimate healer. And we need to get into that light, that vein for everything. Like you said, whether it be physical, mental, spiritual, whatever it is. And yeah, I had a really tough lesson this Christmas. And the reason I want to share this is because I also realize I'm not unique. And if it's happening to me, it happens to other people. And these are some things that are not socially acceptable to talk about, because who wants to talk about the fact that their child has blocked them and doesn't want to talk to them? Right?
Why is
Uh,
she?
it really is, for anybody that's a mother or a father out there, and you come together and you create this being that you hold for the very first time. And it's part of you. It is just part of you. And, I have a son who will be 40 January 1st.
You're too young.
Yeah. And he stopped talking to me in August.
Oh, honey, I can't, but I know I've heard this. I can't believe it. It's so
Mhm.
bewildering and painful.
But here's the thing. I've cried, I've begged, I've sent cards and gifts. I try to stay in touch as much as I can with my grandchildren, my son, my daughter-in-law. And I need to be the one to continue to carry the light and to continue to just reach out. I'm not being a doormat. I won't do that. But at the same time, I've recognized through prayer, through meditation, through people that have talked to me that have a similar path, that it's not me. Everybody has issues that they have to work through, and they work through in one way or another, And so unfortunately this year at Christmas, I was minus my son, my daughter-in-law, my 3 grandkids. And it's very heavy on my heart. But I'm also understanding that if it wasn't meant to be this way for a higher purpose, then it wouldn't be. And so I need to keep pedaling, keep putting one foot in front of the other, and allow God to work out whatever it is he's working out, because we just don't know. And, whatever we think is good is not necessarily good. In the Bible, it says that to God, a day can be 1,000 years, and 1,000 years can be a day. He doesn't think like us. He doesn't see things and he sees the entire picture. He, it, she, whatever you want to call it. I'm sorry if I'm genderizing. But it's what I've done for all my life, just said he,
Yeah.
With a capital H.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't see the big picture. I see my little picture, just my picture. I can't see what's happening way beyond. It's kind of like throwing a rock in a pond and ripples just keep going, right? And that's the way life is. Something happens and the ripple effect just goes.
I
So,
look at it as a tapestry, and I wrote this poetic verse about 10 years ago on the tapestry and how we're underneath with the long yarn and the fibers and the colored weave going in and out to a picture above that we can't see the total picture, the big
right.
picture. And people leave us, the threads leave us, the threads are woven into a bigger picture, and we lose people, and we have loss, and yet we don't know the whole story. And then I read that exact thing almost just the other day as I was thinking about it. I call a coincidence a God shot, as you do. We both, but to me, these uncanny coincidences prove that solid matter is not what the universe is made of. And I've been studying quantum physics and quantum astronomy lately. One of my favorite astrophysicists is also a person who believes, as we do, in the great force of love in the universe that I call God, that we call God. And he writes that even Heisenberg, who came up with quantum physics, says some physicists would like to return to the idea that the particles constituting trees and rocks exist independently of whether or we observe them or not. This, however, is impossible. Everything starts with mind, thought. We are the thoughts. We're thinking. I mean, quantum physics proves that nothing can exist without an observer. And Einstein relativity theory isn't speaking to quantum physics, but they're both viable theories right now. To me, it proves God is proved through science. And I want to explore that further as well. But
That's true.
the power of thought.
That's right. Let me do a little caveat for everybody. And I really wish somehow, if I had one wish for whoever's going to be seeing this, I wish I was live with people to interact and to see their faces, and because there's so much dynamic that happens when we talk about this stuff, because I get so many calls and so many comments. But what I want to tell you, and this is really important. So I gave out my whoa story first, right? And so I want everybody to hear this follow-up too. So here I am on Christmas Day. Christmas Eve has come and gone. Christmas Day is now coming almost over. And, I've got this heaviness, but I'm trying to be, for my children that are here and my grandkids that are here and the rest of my family, trying to be very upbeat and positive and merry, merry, ho, ho, ho. And meanwhile, I'm walking around. But you know what? I mean, the yin, the yang, we've heard of that, the black, the white. So I got a gift around, I'm going to say 6:00 on Christmas Day, right? So I'm at my other son's house. I'm in my grandson's room. He got a PS5. He's playing this thing just like all these kids do. And so everybody's kind of hovering in this room to see this new game that this kid's playing. And my youngest son says, well, since I have everybody in the same room, I have an announcement. And I looked at him. He goes, we're going to have a baby. So with the heaviness of the one that's not speaking to me, now my baby is telling me he's going to have a child. And it was like God just kind of topped my sadness with a gift. And like you said, thinking. And so now it's like, turn your thoughts to the light. Turn your thoughts to the good. Get out of the dark.
Right. The dark feeds itself. You feed the light. The light will feed you. The light is all that exists, by the way, in actual physics.
Yes.
The dark has the part of the dark. There's no such thing as a dark particle. It's light. That's even more interesting than any. I mean, that's fascinating that we can prove God through science. But thoughts are everything. And I just want to say, you helped me get through something difficult the other day with my son, and I felt that he was very hurtful to me on Christmas. And this is probably just the ethos in the air right now, with people feeling kind of a pervasive hostility everywhere. But I learned this. I heard a tape that said, think of your child as innocent, kind, good, loving, and giving, and start magnify the good. And I started doing that, and I stopped focusing on the bad, and it kind of reversed itself. It kind of changed everything. And thanks to you for also bringing me that story. When we focus on the light, the light becomes all we see.
Yes. And I think I may have told you that evening when we were talking, or else I told them at church, one or the other. But you know what? When you walk into a dark room, you don't stand there and say, "Oh, turn off the dark." No, you say, "Turn on the light."
Exactly.
So how do we get rid of the darkness? We turn on the light. We let our light shine. And all of us have light. No matter what we're going through, there's a light in us. And we just need to let that light shine brightly. So whatever's good, we hang on to it. Whatever is negative, we let go of it. And I had an experience, I had COVID. So I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you had COVID, but you recovered.
Yes. But you know what? I've thought about that experience now because I was diagnosed on December 4th. And the minute I saw positive for COVID, I just had an overwhelming fear come over me because you hear so many things in the media and people react differently and this happens and that happens and vaccinated people, non-vaxxers, and it goes on and on, right? And so I panicked. Like when I saw that diagnosis, I'm like, oh my, what's going to happen to me? But you know what happened? I had a group of people just kind of suck right into me, physicians, my friends that were just checking on me night and day. I rode out the storm. I had like about 72 hours, and then my body kind of just overcame it. It wasn't pleasant, but what I learned from that, when you talk about the ethos and what's happening, there is so much fear and anxiety spewing in our society right now. And I think it's multiple things. I think it's COVID related. I think it's life related. I think it's technology related. I mean, the world is moving so fast.
Think about this. We have never in our lifetime until the internet, when social media became kind of ubiquitous everywhere all the time, we have never spoken to each other on a one-to-one level, everybody all at once. We've never had this before. The past decade, it increased. For that, we read the newspaper. We turned on the 3 channels of news.
That's right.
Cable news. We're talking to each other, but there's a lot of good coming out of it. There's a lot of people finding the light through social media, increase the positive. There are people, it's all brand new. It's like the Wild West. We're pioneers creating the new technology. We can't fight it. It's the cat's out of the bag. The genie's out of the bottle. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube,
That's right. And I love that we do this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because it's a positive, hopefully helpful interaction for people to hear and to see and to understand they're not alone. I mean, if I give anything to people, I hope that you understand you're never alone, no matter what you're going through. Somebody else has gone through that. Somebody else has answers to that. You just have to reach out and look, and not try to isolate and stay, because we're only as sick as our secrets, right?
Exactly. And you and I, in years of recovery, where it's step by step, one day at a time, we learned to be honest and authentic and to tell our secrets out loud and share them. Share your pain, you cut it in half. Share your joy, you double it.
Yes.
And there is whatever you want to call God, a lot of people out there may not believe in God per se, the old, the archaic version of the fear and punishing God, which I do not believe in.
Right.
But I do believe that, and I call it God because of the delightful miracles I've achieved. I've actually had so many so-called miracles through this wide-eyed surrender, this kind of optimistic, show me, I'll act as if. Let me act as if I believe in a power greater than myself that may love me. And because I was so shocked into these amazing things that happened, I'm unwinding it backwards. I want to prove it. I want to show everybody that I had proof, tangible evidence. A lot of people just believe they've been given their faith through generations, and they've gotten lazy with it because they sort of were told they have to believe this. I actually experienced firsthand some mind-blowing miracles. Now I believe they're not really miracles. They're natural law. It's the way it's supposed to be. If we're thinking the right way, if we're following the good in the universe, if we're following God, the God of love, if we're actually believing that life is good Life is beautiful. Life is creative. Life is wondrous. There's this
That's right.
wondrous optimism that you overcome evil with good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's just kind of why I had the interest in even doing this podcast, is to actually put good into the universe. Because
Yes,
I, like
exactly.
I, like you, have had all these experiences, these God shots. And I'm like, I know that they need to get out there. And I know that other people are having them. And it's a phenomenon that people really don't know what to do with.
Right.
It's so, what word? Abstract, that, is it quantifiable? Is it, can you qualify it? And sometimes the answer to that is no. But you know what? Go to a person that had stage 4 cancer, that's cancer free, and they'll tell you something happened, right?
Yes.
Um,
Something
I
happened.
mean, go to somebody that was in an automobile accident, went someplace, had an experience, was watching the whole thing, came back into their body and could tell about it. That reminds me of Eben Alexander. Have you ever read his book?
No.
Okay, he's a neurosurgeon, and
Neurosurgeon.
he's a neurosurgeon. He did surgery on the brain. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And so right now the actual name
Let me
of
look
his
it up.
book is eluding me, but it's Eben Alexander.
Okay.
And he would see patients because he did brain surgery on them. So they would come back into his office as a follow-up. And a lot of people would say to him, I had this experience while I was in surgery. And they would tell him different things that they saw or felt or heard or whatever. And he would just kind of poo-poo them. He'd be like, yeah, okay. And he just thought that it was because he was doing surgery, they were under sedation, and they were just having this experience, until it happened to him. It happened to him. He actually got meningitis, and for 7 days, I believe, he was in some sort of coma, and they didn't expect him to live at all, not at all. And his family stayed beside his bed, and they prayed. And he has lots to say in that book about prayer. For example, here's one of the things he says in his book. And in that book, did you find the name of the book? Did you look?
Proof of Heaven.
Okay.
That it?
That's it. There you go.
He was brain dead.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And like I said, a neurosurgeon, but he knew when he came back out of that situation that he was to talk to people about the afterlife and what he found and what this is really like. One of the things that stuck in my brain, I was riveted. He said when he was ascending away from his body, like he could see it, he could see the people, he could see himself laying there, but he was leaving, he was floating upward. And he's like, as he started floating up, he just heard all of this, like, he called it garbled, like chanting, just blah, 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 blah. And he's hearing all this as he's ascending, right? But when he was coming back into his body, his physical body, because now he's brought back, to life here on earth, he realized that what he heard were all the people praying for him.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Yep. He said every prayer that somebody was saying, he recognized it, and he knew that people prayed him back into life.
I believe it. I believe the power of love. Love is God. Love is the force of life. Love creates. That power of love, when you radiate love towards someone or your problems, they kind of just dissipate. You disarm people with love. But his book is called Proof of Heaven, a neurosurgeon's journey into the afterlife.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And because I'm a nurse practitioner, I found it very fascinating. A neurosurgeon had this experience. I wanted to hear about it. And I read that book in like 2 days. It's not hard to read. However, there was a part for me that he really puts a lot of science in a couple of chapters. I love the science. And that's the part you're looking for, right? That's the part we're all looking for. He connected science and spirit. And he did it through that horrific journey of meningitis.
Oh my God, this is fascinating. I actually want to write a white paper proving God through science, or proving what God as love. And I believe Einstein was close to proving that the unified field is love.
Mhm.
which is, and Einstein actually believed that goodness, truth, and beauty are laws in the universe, and that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. And you
Mm.
just sent me an article from Psychology Today. I didn't read the article yet, but called Coincidences. What are they? What are these things? These bizarre, random, sparkly events that seem
Yes.
connected.
Mhm.
And whenever I'm in the flow of a beautiful, whenever I'm surrendered, which means I'm not in worry or fear or regret or
Yes.
guilt or shame or any of those
Yes.
things that are not from my loving source, I experience these God shots. We call them God shots, these
Yes.
uncanny coincidences that seem, they're so beautiful and magical. I had so many of those when I first had
Yes.
my awakening and got sober and had a catastrophic crash and
Yes.
burn, which, like you said, not just silver linings, but inside every bad, so-called bad thing is the
Mhm.
seed of the good or something good.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And so, you know what, the name of that article that I sent you, I just happened to have it laying on my desk. Coincidence, embrace the unknown.
And I
And that's, and I love that because it's like we tend to fear the unknown instead of embracing it. And, you know, I had somebody tell me one time, take a look at where your feet are. Where your feet are is exactly where you're supposed to be. Because if you weren't supposed to be there, you wouldn't be.
love
That's,
that.
that's so simple. And I mean, I believe that that's true. Have you ever had, at least I have, I've had too many experiences. I know what I was going to share with you. I was reading last night an article by a flight attendant, and she was a flight attendant. She had a lot of time. For those of you that are flight attendants, you know that as you get time, you get seniority and your trips get better and you pick trips better and all that kind of thing. So she had picked flight 175 for September 11, right? And that was the route that she had flown for a while. And that particular day, she plugs her 3 flights in like she was supposed to. 2 of them took, that one didn't. And she's like, what is wrong with this? So she went back in and she tried 2 or 3 times to get on her normal flight of 175, right? From Boston to the West Coast, the actual plane that was the second plane that went into the towers. And the last time it accepted, but she was 1 minute past the deadline to fly that flight. So she had to then pick another flight. So when she boarded her flight, she was working a flight in between 175 and the other one that went into the towers. So plane 1 and plane 2 that hit the towers, she got a flight in between them. And she looks back on that now and she's like, she was so agitated because the computer kept not accepting her bid and it was messing up her schedule. And she was so frustrated. And then once everything happened, she realized that there was a power greater than herself that was actually guiding her, stopping her, messing with the computer so she would not be on that plane.
Now, a lot of people ask this question, and there was a book by a rabbi written years ago called When Bad Things Happen to Good People.
Mhm.
How do you explain, though, all the other people that had to suffer through that horrific tragedy? Why were they on that flight? I mean, what do you think? And there are people who pray constantly and they were on that flight. They aren't unfaithful people or people who don't
Right.
believe in God.
No, they're not. But you know what? I wish I knew how to answer that. And that's what you talked about in the beginning, the threads, where we can't
Yeah.
see what's happening in the picture above. We just don't know. I just don't know why. I wish I did. There was that, and I don't remember the exact date, unfortunately. It might have been like 91. I can't remember.
Yeah.
91, 92, something like that, when the plane went down in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I live in Weirton, which is like 30 minutes from Pittsburgh. So my brother works for US Airways. It was one of their planes. And he called me immediately. He goes, we have a plane down. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, a plane just dropped in Pittsburgh. I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, the saddest part of that to me was there was a family, a mother, father, and 2 children on that flight, which was coming back from Chicago. They had gone to Chicago for a funeral and they're coming back and the plane crashes.
Oh, it's
And
so
I'm like,
sad.
and that's what you think about the family, and you think about the tragedy, and you think about the sadness. And why do those things happen? And maybe that is not something we will ever know on this side of eternity, right? But that's where our faith comes in. That's where we have to trust. You have to have some kind of
I
belief.
truly don't believe in death because I've had some very interesting experiences after my brother died. And I know a lot of people have had these things. And it wasn't wishful thinking because it was years later, one of them. A couple years ago, I think I told you this one. I'm talking to him. He died in 1995. My son was born in 94. He died within that first year. And I remember my precious brother, he was one of those people who couldn't quite get it. He couldn't live in the mortal world, the material world that easily. It was tough for him here. And he was such a sweet, dear spirit. You know, he had all these longings, and life in this world is clunky and kind of primitive at times. You know, does she like me? What if someone, he had this low self-esteem, and you can blame parents for that, or you can blame society for that. But he was troubled from an early age, and he sniffed glue at the age of 8. And he was just very, very scared of life. And then all his life, he didn't feel like he fit in. He was too fragile for this world. And then when he passed away and I found his body, and I was sober at that point, I was brand new, newly sober, a few months. I didn't think I'd ever get through that without drinking. And I was able to be there for my whole family. And somehow it was a spiritual experience. A lot of people were saved through his death. A lot of lives were saved. A lot of kids who were in recovery came to his funeral and sat there weeping, and they hiked up a mountain to get there. And they said, I'll never drink again. If your brother hurt you this badly, I'll never do that to my family. So there were lives saved. But then I've seen my brother in 2 big visions after he died. And it sounds so mystical, and some people go, oh yeah, right. But it was so clear. The first one, 3 times, actually 3 times. But the third one was just a couple years ago. And he died in 95. And here I am suddenly remembering him in such a vivid detail. I started speaking to him and I said, oh my God, Paul, please forgive me for not helping you more in your life. When you came to Hollywood, maybe you needed a job, and I should have helped you get a job in show business because I was starting my career in showbiz. And as I was weeping for him. And suddenly this loud alarm doorbell went off, and this was midnight, pitch dark outside, not a single soul. And the only way that doorbell can go off is if it was an alarm that goes off if the door is opened.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm right next to the front door in the office, making sure Chuck doesn't wander out, back in those days when he was wandering away. And it was like, oh, it felt like that bell ringing in It's a Wonderful Life. It was too uncanny to have a bell ring like that when the door couldn't have been opened. I was looking at the window. There was no one there. It just felt like these beautiful little things. Like I told you, my friend, her brother died in a roadside mine in Iraq. He was a Navy SEAL, and the family couldn't get over it. And they were sitting on the beach in Laguna a month after his death. He was a Navy SEAL, and they were just holding hands, praying, and just saying, we just hope you're okay. Can you let us know if you're okay? And a sea lion from the rocks in Laguna Beach came flopping over to them in the circle. And it was like, oh, wow. Come on. You have a sense of humor. How incredible is that sweet little wink,
Yeah, I believe that. And you said wink, and I think about God winks. Some people call them God winks. Some people call them God shots.
Yeah.
One of the things that came to mind to me when you were talking about your brother was The Shack.
Oh yes, that's the one movie I haven't seen yet.
Well, it's a book,
yeah,
and it was made into a movie. I've read the book twice, and I saw the movie. And I got to tell you, it's one for everybody listening. It's one of those things where the book is excellent and the movie is just as excellent.
Good. I'm writing it down again right now.
And you know what? When I saw it, when I read it, it was just, I couldn't put it down. It was riveting. And then when I saw it, I sat there and just sobbed. But you know what? It brought me I believe for me, what I needed to understand about heaven and earth. And there is a scene in that movie. It's depicted in the book, but there's the scene and you actually see it. And there is such a fine, well, I'll just tell you, this is not a spoiler alert, but
Okay.
I mean, it shows like the human beings in the cave and the water, the waterfalls coming over the opening of that cave. And on the other side of that water is eternity, where everybody is. And so you can see they're there, they can see you, you can see them, but not clearly, and you can hear a little bit, but not real excellently. And that just reminded me of the here and the hereafter. It's like, I think it's a very close place. I agree with you. I don't think people die. I mean, I think that the human physical body goes away, but the spirit lives forever.
Like walking into another room, they say. Some people have said, I mean, it's proving that quantum physics now proves that there is no matter. It's consciousness, it's thought. The mind of the creator could be the mind of love, the mind of all of us together. As we think good thoughts, we are continuing, we are adding to God's ideas. We are God's most magnificent idea.
Well, you know what I'd really like to do? What I'd really like to do with this, with who we're talking to in our audience, is I would like somebody to contact us. Somebody with something serious. I mean, like serious, like cancer. I don't know what else it could possibly be. I mean, I'm just coming up with this stuff off the top of my head. A serious illness of some sort, estranged children, estranged parents, whatever it may be that's causing grief and heartache that you just kind of can't get through.
Yeah.
And I would like for them to contact us and write us and bring it forward so we can bring it to the audience and put it out there for people to pray about.
Oh my God, I love that.
And then to see, because you know what, this is what I go by. This is what I believe in. If you get on your knees in a humble position, and I'm not talking humble before man. Yeah. I'm talking humble before the world, before good orderly direction, before the universe.
Infinite love is God. Infinite love.
And just be like, it's almost like when a man proposes, he gets on his knee. Why? Respect, honor, humbling, and so if for 2 weeks, if we get on our knees and we pray for that person in that situation, I'm telling you, we're going to have somebody come back to Godshots and say, oh my goodness, this was the result. And people that are listening to this will get to see it in action.
Yes.
And our actions speak louder than words. We can talk about this and it's true, but let's put it to practice and let's show people. So if anybody's listening and you want to write in and say, hey, this is going on, we'll pick you and let's do it. Let's get on our knees for 2 weeks and pray about it and see what happens.
I'll post our website information and our emails, the email for godshotsorg on when we put the show out there.
Perfect.
Actually, godshotsorg at gmail.com. godshotsorg@gmail.com. You can write to us there. Awesome. By the way, Mary Baker Eddy, who founded this, she's metaphysic. She believes in the God of love, and she was a fundamentalist Christian from the Pilgrim era. She was one of the Pilgrim families, and she thought God can't be mean and fear and punishing. She didn't believe in that version because she used to go to this church with her parents, and it was all fire and brimstone. It was like, the fear, we're constantly in fear. And she had an experience at 14 where she fell on the ice and was paralyzed. Her spinal cord was either severed or completely, the nerve endings were blocked. And she was told she'd never walk again. And she lay in bed at the age of 14 and she began to read the Bible. And she read it back and forth, she read it like 4 times, the whole Bible. And then she read only Christ's healings. And she goes, how can this have happened 2,000 years ago? Or this is in 1860s. And why can't we do it now? He says we're supposed to be doing this now. If you're going to go and take the leap of faith and believe in God, take the leap all the way and believe in the beginning, the premise of Genesis 1. We are made in God's image. God is all good all the time. We're made in his image and likeness. There's no there's no opposition. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, which means we can't put cancer before God. No more diseases before God. No other materialism. And she was healed. She was healed. She got up and walked. And she goes, I've got to find the evidence and the proof and the analysis of how this happened. So she founded a religion, and she was healing right and left. She raised the dead. She raised a dead child. The certain churches, fundamentalist churches, got mad at her and they said, you're a witch. But she just said, it's in the Bible. So we're not doing that enough. We should be. And I'm now merging metaphysics with quantum physics. It's true. There's an astrophysicist who's doing this himself. There's like 3 quantum astronomers right now, and he's proving the same thing I want to prove and you want to prove.
That's right.
So we should join science.
Well, what I find,
matter is kind of flaky,
Yeah, it is. It is. And you know what? Here's a nice, now I forget what the word is. I'm losing my adult words, but Bible just basically stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Oh, I love that.
And so if you read it, it's a set of instructions. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there is a diet, and I forget the name of the diet, maybe Jezebel diet or something. But this physician actually got a diet plan directly from the Bible, because it tells you what to eat and what not to eat. It's really simple. And if you follow it, you're healthy. And we don't have to do, you don't have to do it.
I like the seeds and berries rather than so much meat.
Well,
they weren't eating meat in the Bible,
No, and this is the thing. There are so many instructions in that book that, I'm not telling people to read the Bible. I read the Bible because I get stuff out of it. I have had Godshots because of it. I have met you because of it. My life is amazing because of it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But there was a point in time where I didn't necessarily believe in that, because I was raised that Bush is going to get me. Bush is going to get you. And my grandparents were Russian Orthodox. And
Busha,
which is Russian. Well, it's in the Russian language for God.
Oh, you thought it was like a witch or something?
No, it was their terminology for God, their language. Okay. But Bush is going to get you. So what my parents and my grandparents did was give me that fearful God. Yeah. So anytime that the curfew was at 10, if you're not home at 10, Bush is going to get you. So I always had this fear that no matter what I did, God was going to get me, right? Oh my gosh. And it took coming into the rooms for me to understand that God is love.
Yeah.
God gives us gifts. God loves us.
Exactly.
And you know what? And when we do something that's really horrific, which we all do because we're human, he gets sad. It's just like it's almost like this sadness, like, oh, well, that was kind of a mistake. And it's like wrecking your tricycle and just, okay, get it out of the ditch. Let's get on it and let's go again.
As long as you learn from your mistakes and you don't willfully go out and hurt people. The golden rule is the most universal form of religion, even in secular countries, in secular lives. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat others with the dignity and kindness you would want for yourself. That's the simplest way to get along in a society, even if you don't believe in, we all have so many different versions of God, we've got to find that one common ground.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so much division right now. There is so much division between all people about everything, and there's so much fear. And I don't really know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's media based and the media is creating a lot of fear in people. I personally don't watch the news. I just don't. I figure if it's anything important, somebody's going to come to my door and tell me.
Right.
I
believe it is a lot to do with media and ratings, and the newspaper headline, the newspaper motto of all newspaper companies or press companies is, if it bleeds, it leads. They want to excite you because that gets ratings, and they want the most thrilling, horrific, devastating thing to be leading the headlines. So they want to keep you in anxiety because they sell products that way. And I hate to say that, it's true. There is truthful news. There are some good journalists, and there's a lot of Pulitzer Prize winning newspapers. And I study this very rigorously because I was almost a journalism major. The
Okay.
Society of Ethical Journalism is the New York Times, Washington Post, the Christian Science Monitor, the only objective newspaper anywhere that it's won 7 Pulitzers. The Boston Globe, the the St. Louis, the Des Moines Register. There's a lot of local papers and Reuters journalists. But the problem is there's these opinion journalists on Fox that aren't real news at all. They're there to hurt and inspire fear, and on the other side as well. But I have to say, CNN is real journalism. They're real journalists on the front lines at every war zone. They actually put their lives at risk.
Mhm.
That's news. Fox isn't. And I have to say that's very, very, I've done in-depth studies on this.
Yeah, I
But,
wouldn't know.
but we have to stay away from the fear. And you're right. Fear is causing all the strife and politicization. Last night we watched a movie called Don't Look Up. It's a satire comedy with Meryl Streep and Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. And it's about fear mongering of something really bad happening in the country, and no one will believe it anymore. But I have to say one thing. You've heard of chaos theory, right?
Yes.
Chaos theory is that if you get high up enough above a problem and you look down on the problem, a beautiful pattern is forming. It's up close that we're all in chaos. But if we get high enough up, something beautiful is forming. And it's as if when we get through all this greed, you can't have enough sex, drugs, rock and roll, greed, killing each other, violence. It's like violent porn. At the other side of that, it seems like we're snowballing toward chaos, but there's only one place to go on the other side of that once all your desires have been fulfilled. And that's to the spirit within, the great universal loving force that unites us. And it's our job individually to spread love and joy and to point out the good things going on, the good news.
That's correct. And, so here, my Bible-based thought goes back to the Bible where Solomon talked about that. He had everything. He had more money, more wives, more property, more everything than anybody did. And his comment at the end of the day was, it's all for naught. It doesn't make you happy. Right?
So, yes.
So we just keep carrying on. And I mean, how many times I've said, well, if I can have that coat, I'm going to be happy. If I can drive that car, I will have arrived. Right? If I live in that neighborhood, my life will get better.
That guy.
that guy. And none of it is the magic bullet. None of it, And I believe that what we talk about in this program, that's the magic bullet.
I do.
And it takes, and so what's the work? Here's the work to me, and I don't do it. I wish I could tell everybody that I get up every morning and I'm like nun, like I'm like a nun, like I get on my knees and I pray and I read my Bible. I don't. I think about it. I open my eyes and I think about it. And I think, oh, I got to go to work. Oh,
Yeah.
I got to do this. Oh, I better take a shower. And then before you know it, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. And I'm like, have I ever said thank you today?
Oh, that's the key. Oh, by the way, gratitude is the sincerest form of prayer. I've heard that before. And if you don't know how to pray, just start thinking of all your blessings. Count the good things in your, oh my God, I have food. I have enough for today. I have a resilient spirit. I have hope. Hope springs eternal. I have, even if you don't have anything, you have something. Be grateful for the crack in your coffee cup because it shows that you have your hand can hold a cup. There are people who can't.
Yeah.
You can't even see the cup.
That's right. And so I think by stopping taking things for granted and like you said, just go to gratitude. I remember when I first came in to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't know what gratitude was. I didn't know what humility was. I mean, I thought I had humility when I walked in there. I later learned I was humiliated. Two different things.
Too.
Oh my goodness, two different things. It's not our natural bent as humans to want to be grateful. We want to complain. That's the nature of the human, right? But when you do get yourself in that mindset where it's like, I'm thankful that I can see, I'm thankful that I can breathe without a respirator, without a ventilator. I'm happy I can breathe. I mean, so what I was going back to say, so when I first came in and we were in a gratitude meeting, right? And it came to my turn. I said, I really don't have anything to be grateful for. And I really believed that with my heart and soul, because it was like, oh, I don't know. I can't drink anymore. Here I am. I'm stuck with a bunch of weird people. And this is like awful, right? And I had a wise man look at me, and he was putting his hat on. He was putting his coat and hat on. And he had about 20 years at the time, maybe 18. And he turned around and he goes, "You're sucking air, aren't you?" And he walked out the door. And I just thought to myself, what a jackass.
Love that.
Sorry. but it was like, what's wrong with him? But now, years later, when I look back on that loving, caring man, he was absolutely right. We take for granted the smallest things. Like when we go and we get in a car and we run to the grocery store and we come back, do we ever stop to thank God that we made it back? Some people don't.
You know what? You're right. We have to do this as a practice. That's the key, is practice
Yes.
gratitude. Practice saying, instead of getting in the car and going, damn that driver, or that stoplight's taking too long. Boy, you're looking at the myopic, tiny negative things that do not enhance your life. The higher thoughts are up here. And it's this, do you know how easy your life goes when you start to just go in the flow and stop resisting everything and stop fighting stop living in your lower nature? It's overcoming your lower nature. That's what it's all about. And we may only be here in a little school for a little while in these mortal bodies, because the eternal life is going to be forever. And it's beautiful. I keep hearing from people who've had near-death experiences that, whoa, the light,
The
whoa, the
colors.
beauty.
Yeah.
And I told you this.
What's that?
Well, before, I've told you all this, and maybe in a different show, and I told you before, but John Lovitz, who's an incredibly funny comedian, he was the star of Saturday Night Live during the years with Dana Carvey, and he was the liar on Saturday Night Live. And he's really funny. One of my best friends in the world. We dated too long ago. But he was doing a movie with Nicolas Cage and Dana Carvey up in Canada. And the night before the movie, before he flew off, he had a huge fight with his dad. His dad never wanted to be an actor, and he was in a lull, and he was going off to do this movie, but they had a huge fight. His dad is a doctor. His dad died a couple days later, and John just had never made up with his father, and he couldn't forgive himself. He was like beside himself with grief and regret and shame over not forgiving his dad. And then he had a dream, I think that third night, and he saw his father in the dream standing and holding hands in heaven. John didn't believe in heaven before this. He wasn't religious at all. And they were holding hands with, his dad was holding hands with a couple of women and different relatives. And he said, "John, I forgive you. You forgive me. We're good. I love you. Everything's good." And he said, "Tell your mom Aunt Edna says hi." And John was like, woke up, called his mom and said, "Who's Aunt Edna?" She said, "Oh my God, she's your grandmother's sister who died years ago. You'd never know her, from the old country, from Armenia." I think her name was Edna, or might have been a different pronunciation, but he went, "How would I have known that name if I hadn't had this dream?" To this day, he is now a believer like you can't believe.
And see, that's what it is. And you know what? I think that we get those sublime messages every day, all day, and we're so busy that we miss them.
We miss them when we don't look, we don't practice gratitude.
No.
We don't stop, breathe, and look up and feel the beauty of the universe and start looking. The more you look for beauty, the more you're going to find it.
That's
If you
right.
look for beauty, you'll find it everywhere. Gratitude is the activator.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And I'm just grateful. Like like today, honestly, was a really crazy day in my world. When you are in recovery, you don't have to be in recovery, it can be anything. But when you're in recovery and somebody has multiple years and then they pick up, You really watch self-destruction.
And they pick up a drink, you mean? Or a drug?
A drink.
Yeah,
A drink.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that, I mean, I'm just saying what I've experienced is people think they can safely drink a glass of wine or a glass of beer, and it just doesn't work that way,
No.
and it just goes very quickly from that one glass of wine to total destruction of self. And it's really hard. But when I come on here, I just feel like I'm in the right place for the right purpose, and that there's somebody, there may only be one person that listens to this that's going to hear something they need to hear and going to want to participate, and how does it work? One person at a time, one day at a time, and yeah, I mean, we got a really great thing here by sharing Godshots, and they just keep
started. 2022, we have some great guests lined up.
Oh, we do, yeah.
So we're going to start doing, I promise you this time, regular shows. Probably a little bit more regularly after February 10th, but then we'll start up the full force. But we have some an author in January who's in recovery. He's written an amazing book called Raising the Bottom.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to read that book before January.
Yeah.
It sounds fabulous.
Oh, you've been through so much, and yet you're sparkling, you're beautiful, and it's because you live in the light. I can see it all around you. I can see you choose the light.
That's because I have, like, all my windows are open.
I can see light, and you have that luminescent glow, though. But I think because you live in the light, you don't. It's like, I love the phrase. I don't know where I've heard it. It might be in the Bible. Where the world is a loose garment. Don't be attached to disease or fear or anything. Don't like marry yourself to an old accident you had, because people who talk about their backache pain, it's because they look back too much, and they're living in this past, constant rehearsing the error or the mistake that happened years ago, and they're stuck, and even their body becomes stuck. There is a book called The Body Tells the Story, or The Body Knows the Score, or something. And it's about how we hold a lot of pain in our bodies, but it all starts here. We have to link our minds up with the divine thoughts, the thoughts of love, beauty, goodness, truth, harmony, health, cooperation, and watch your life change. I mean, you don't have to call it God if you're afraid of those religious terms. It's this flow of goodness that's really forming, creating, informing the universe constantly. And things change moment to moment. Staying stuck in an old past idea, in an old story, isn't helping you. And if your religion isn't serving you to make you more happy, joyous, and free, then rethink it.
That's right. That's right. We have choices, and we're not stuck. We can change and do something different. And I don't know, I think of the queen of trying stuff. Like, my sponsor always says to me, try it on for size, see what you think. If it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, but do something different, So I'll try anything once. And if I like it, I'll do it again. And if I don't, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I did that. I don't necessarily need to do that. And I think that there was a reading today, and it was in the daily reflections.
I love that.
Oh, no. It was in somebody reading the promises, right?
Yeah.
And it said, I became. No, we don't became, we are becoming. We change every day, every minute of the day. We're evolving, we're changing. So what we liked 5 minutes ago may not work for us a half hour from now. And it's okay. It's okay.
I love the idea that a woman said this once. I reserve the right to change my mind at any moment. It's a good thing to change your mind with new information.
That's right.
It's That's like right. they used to chastise people for being changeable. Not if it's improving your life and giving you a bigger perspective, a more loving perspective. If it's making me small and bitter, no. Those are not choices I want to make anymore. I want to make the choices that make me expand my heart, grow a bigger heart.
Let me tell you what, and I think that this is just me, and I'm going to talk from I statements. I'm not going to say you, whatever. But at Christmas, I had this special person that I wanted to buy something for. And I'm thinking, what can I do that's kind of special? I don't know. I don't want to be too much. So I don't know if you've ever seen Trans-Siberian Orchestra,
Oh,
but they're called TSO. They are an amazing Christmas show. But it's like a rock and roll band that does a Christmas show. And it's just the most amazing thing. I've seen it a few times. So in September, it came into my inbox and I looked at that they were coming to Pittsburgh last night. And I thought maybe I should get him tickets to this. Maybe I'll get tickets and we'll go, right? Now this is September and I thought, oh, I don't know. And I wasn't going to do it. And I thought, you know what? I like him. If he doesn't want to go, somebody will go with me. Okay, I'm going to get them, right? So I get these tickets. And he'd never seen them. We went last night. It was just amazing. I didn't know where I was purchasing the seats at. I did the best I could looking at the diagram of what, the arena that I was going to be in. And do you know that we were like right in the front row, up higher than floor level, so you could really see everything. Seats on either side of us, because I was really concerned about the COVID, super spreader event. And the seats on either side of us were not taken. So we had plenty of room to it was just the most amazing evening. It truly was. The concert was fabulous. It was kind of like being back in life, seeing this event, and he got to see something for the first time and he was so excited because I would go back to see them again. But their name, when it says Trans-Siberian Orchestra, you think of an orchestra, you think of something kind of boring, whatever. This is far from it. I mean, it's an amazing technical light show, fireworks, just truly amazing, And so I just look at that and I'm so grateful that I got to experience that last night, and to do that and to think that I bought those things in September, really not knowing what I was going to do with them.
How fun. I love that you see, that's the thing. Say yes to life. It's that there's a movie called that Jim Carrey did about say yes. We went to I was feeling kind of melancholy about Christmas, not knowing if I was going to see my kid who's got his own life. And believe me, he doesn't need his mother hovering, and he's got a whole group of friends and he's very happy and he's doing well. And I've been picturing him that way. When I say I pray for others, what I do is I see them thriving. I see the true invisible harmony in their lives that other people may not be able to see. And I magnify that. And it actually does work. I really believe that if God didn't create it, then we don't experience it. And God didn't create anything bad. So that's my theory now, that if it's ugly, evil, and creepy, it's bogus. And that really works. I mean, try it. It really works. So I dragged my wonderful beau to Riverside, to the historic Mission Inn, which is the most gorgeous Spanish castle. It's this historic hotel that they have underground tunnels and everything. During Prohibition, they built it, and it's many, many levels of a Spanish courtyard, and they decorate the entire thing in lights. It was spectacular. It's one of those wonderland of lights with different restaurants and Christmas trees everywhere. And we tried to sneak up to the castle staircase. I hate to say we did. I mean, I shouldn't say this. We got to the roof where the nativity scene is, and there's a church up there. Oh. Entire medieval looking church built of stone. It's beautiful. And then there was a secret spiral staircase I couldn't find. I remember being there once before. Now that they've hidden, they couldn't hide it, but it was built like so long ago. And apparently it's a very dangerous staircase. And it's huge, made of all tile. And I don't think they want people going over there unless you're a guest. So I kept asking everyone who worked there, do you know where the spiral staircase is? And they would go, can't tell you unless you're a guest here. So we didn't sneak up that one. I was dying to do it, but I feel like a detective at times. I feel like a little kid at Christmas. Yeah. I love lights. I love Christmas. And then I bought tickets also to a big thing called the Lightscape at the Arboretum. And we went there Christmas Eve and we walked through a wonderland of plants and forest lights with everything lit up in color, beautiful, with gorgeous music and symphony playing. And then they had the Fantasy Island original opening credits house. I did a Fantasy Island. My boyfriend wrote a Fantasy Island, and we're here at the Fantasy Island. It was really kind of silly.
And that's so that's good.
It just gave you that childlike spirit of the gift of the magic of Christmas, and light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so it's been really nice today to see you again
Yeah,
and
it's been great to see you.
to talk. And I'm excited. I mean, yeah, to anybody that's listening, coming up in 2022 will be our year to really kick this off and get it going and keep it regular. And because we do get a lot of comments about, we love hearing you guys banter and talk about it. But I'm telling you, the challenge is out there. When you hear this, if you've got something big, send it. What's the name of the email?
Godshotsorg, GODSHOTSORG @gmail.com.
There you go. There you have it. So
We're
write
also-
it down, send it in.
And we're also on Anchor, Podcast, Spotify, Breaker, Apple, iTunes. This goes out audio as well, and you can listen in your car on Stitcher. So this podcast is a video podcast and an audio. So this one's called How to Heal. I think they should all be called How to Heal.
Because
The
it is,
Godshots.
this is very healing. And
Have you noticed that we have not talked about anything going on that's negative in the world?
I don't want to. I don't want to.
It doesn't serve me. It doesn't make me feel good. Why would we? Why in the world we want to be the one place you can go to really, but you can talk about your health issues and your problems, because there is a solution. There's a solution to every problem, no matter how dire, no matter what you're going through.
That's right. But you know what? There's that's kind of like in my vision, what Godshots is for, is to counterbalance, I should say, the negativity in the world. Yeah, there's going to be negative stuff, and yes, we're going to hear it. But you know what? If we stay in the light, then we get the light. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for right now at this stage of my life.
Me too.
I lived in the darkness for a long time.
Me too.
And you know what? I collected everything you could possibly collect: jewelry, clothes, homes, men, vacations, you name it. I had degrees. I mean, I was looking for everything. And you don't find it. It's inside of you. It's the spirit inside. And this show nurtures the spirit. Yay.
Godshots with Darlene, Sperlazza, and Lydia, Cornell. You know what you just said? Inside of you. That's the key. People keep thinking God's this old man in the sky somewhere above the clouds. I mean, that may be an old rendition of an old book, a fairy tale book. But no, God is inside you. The spirit of love, everything's inside you. The solution's inside you. You have to tap into it. And it takes practice. But there are physical healings happening every day right now. People overcoming leukemia. I work with a practitioner who helped a woman overcome leukemia and cancer, went into remission 3 times, and then she was fine. She finally died of old age, but I believe it's so interesting how, it turns out she told her family, look for cardinals, the red bird after I die. That was her favorite bird. I didn't know that until yesterday. I had 3 dreams of red birds in a row after she died. And I kept saying, what is this red bird I keep seeing everywhere? So, she was one of my dearest. I call her my adopted grandmother, Josie Butler. I love you, Josie.
Nice.
Flying with the angels.
Very nice.
Thank you, darling. You're such a beautiful spirit, and I love you so much.
I love you too, Lydia. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to January when we have our guest. And I'm going to read the book in the interim, and we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Okay. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Your eyes on love and light.
Yes. Yes, we do.
God bless you.